When I got fired, he said, "Don't worry, I'll handle everything." But his handling included a luxury car for his mistress. "Who's Cassandra?" I asked. He froze. "She's just someone from work." I leaned closer, cool. "Then she can drive you to your next job interview." You ever have one of those moments where the air just shifts? Like, you're standing in your kitchen, barefoot in your old college sweatshirt, and suddenly the universe just tilts? That was me last June. I'm Laura Mitchell, 44 years old, born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Been married to Brian for what felt like a lifetime, 19 years. Mother of two, Ava and Lucas. Senior office manager at Dalton and Brooks, a mid-sized law firm downtown. Or, well, I was. The morning it all started, the house smelled like burnt toast because Lucas still hadn't figured out how to work the toaster properly. I was running late. Again. "Hey, your boss still being a hard ass about that merger project?" Brian asked from his seat at the kitchen counter, nose buried in his phone. "Worse," I said, tossing my travel mug into my purse. "They're reassessing roles." "You know what that means." He looked up, squinting like I'd just spoken Greek. "Huh." I sighed. "Layoffs, Brian. They're laying people off." He set his phone down, reached for his coffee. "You'll be fine. You're like the glue in that place." I forced a smile. That was Brian for you. Always assuming everything would just work itself out. I didn't have time to argue. I kissed him on the cheek, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. "Love you," I called. "Love you too," he mumbled without looking up. 3 hours later, I was standing in Mr. Halperin's office, clutching a manila folder like it was a life raft. "We appreciate everything you've done for the firm, Laura," he said, giving me that practiced, pitying look I'd seen him give other people before. Never thought I'd be on the receiving end. Jude from HR handed me a tissue box like she already knew I'd cry. I didn't. I sat there, numb, nodding like a bobblehead while they explained severance packages and health insurance grace periods. When I left the building, the Milwaukee sun was BRTL overhead, and for the first time in years, I didn't know where the hill I was supposed to go. When I got home, Brian was stretched out on the couch, watching SportsCenter, one sock half hanging off his foot. I stood there in the doorway, cardboard box in my arms, heart pounding. "I got fired," I said. He blinked, muted the TV. "SHT, seriously?" I nodded. He got up, finally, and hugged me. He smelled like Old Spice and the bacon he'd made himself for breakfast. "Don't worry, babe," he said into my hair. "I'll handle everything." At first, I let him. I mean, what else could I do? I was shell-shocked. My whole life had revolved around schedules and responsibilities and that goddamn job. Brian said he'd take care of the bills, and I didn't argue. I threw myself into the house. Organized the pantry. Painted the spare room. Tried yoga once. Burned dinner twice. The kids noticed something was off. "Are you sick or something?" Ava asked one night while I was scrubbing the bathroom floor at 9 p.m. "No, sweetie. Just cleaning," I said with a smile that felt too tight on my face. It started with little things. I found a receipt from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in his jacket pocket. A $320 tab. "Who the hell did you take to Ruth's Chris?" I asked, half joking. He barely flinched. "Work thing. Celebrating a big sale." "Must have been some sale," I muttered, tossing the receipt in the trash. Next, I found a Mercedes key fob sitting on the hallway table. We didn't own a Mercedes. When I asked, Brian shrugged. "It's Ted's. Left it in my truck. I'm giving it back tomorrow." I nodded, but my stomach knotted. One night, after the kids went to bed, I was folding laundry on the couch. Brian's phone buzzed between the couch cushions. Normally, I wouldn't touch it. I trusted him, but something about the way it buzzed, over and over and over, made me reach for it. A text lit up the screen. "Cassandra, can't wait to see you tonight, baby." Winky face. The world went silent. I stared at the message until it blurred. He walked in a minute later, rubbing a towel over his wet hair. "Hey, babe, what's for?" I held up the phone. His face drained of color so fast I thought he might pass out. "Who's Cassandra?" He blinked. Licked his lips. "She's, someone from work." I stepped closer, so close I could smell the mini shampoo he'd just used. "Cool. Then she can drive you to your next job interview." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I tossed the phone onto the couch like it was on fire and walked out onto the porch, slamming the door behind me so hard the windows rattled. The days that followed were a blur of shouting, crying, and cold, bitter silence. I found out everything. He met Cassandra at some stupid work conference 6 months ago. She was 29, blonde, and according to Brian, just got him in a way I apparently didn't anymore. Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed for this family? I screamed at him one night after Lucas had gone to bed. I never asked you to, he shot back. That hurt more than anything. The divorce was fast and BRTL. Wisconsin's a no-fault state. It didn't matter that he was a lying, cheating piece of SHT. He got the truck. I got the house, for a while at least, until I couldn't afford the mortgage on my own. We fought over every stupid thing. The coffee table, the blender, the damn Christmas ornaments. Ava wouldn't speak to him. Lucas cried himself to sleep for a month straight. One afternoon, after another exhausting mediation session, I sat at my kitchen table, head in my hands, while my best friend Marcy poured us both generous glasses of wine. "He's not worth this, Laura," she said, handing me a glass. "I know," I whispered, but knowing didn't make it hurt any less. Marcy topped off my glass without even asking. We'd been friends long enough for her to know I needed it. "You're not sleeping," she said, studying me. I shrugged. It's not easy to sleep when your life's gone up in flames. She gave me a soft, pitying smile. "You're better off without him." I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, tell that to the mortgage company." We sat there for a while, sipping wine, the house eerily quiet around us. Ava was out with friends. Lucas was holed up in his room, headphones glued to his ears. Marcy leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "You think he's serious about her?" I stared into my glass. "Does it matter?" He bought her a Mercedes while telling me not to worry about the bills. Marcy's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" "He bought her the car." "Yep." Found the paperwork in his filing cabinet. "He put it under his name, but she drives it." She shook her head. "What a bastard." A few days later, Brian came by to pick up some of his stuff. We were still in that awkward phase where technically, we both lived here, but really, it was just me and the kids. He knocked instead of using his key. Small mercies. I opened the door, already bracing myself. He looked rough. Hollow cheeks, dark circles under his eyes. Maybe Cassandra wasn't the magical cure-all he thought she'd be. "Hey," he said, shifting from foot to foot. I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Brian?" "Just grabbing a few things." I stepped aside, but didn't say a word. I wasn't making this easy for him. I shouldn't make it easy. He walked past me, smelling faintly of cheap cologne and desperation. Ava appeared at the top of the stairs. She froze when she saw him. "Hey, kiddo," he said, voice soft. She didn't answer, just turned around and walked back into her room, slamming the door behind her. Brian winced. "She still won't talk to me?" I laughed, cold and humorless. "Gee, I wonder why." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't want this to happen, Laura." "Yeah, well, you made your choice. Now live with it." He picked up a box of his things, carried it awkwardly to the door. Before he left, he hesitated. "Tell Ava and Lucas I love them, okay?" I just stared at him until he finally gave up and walked out. The next few months were a blur of court dates, paperwork, and quiet, crushing loneliness. I tried to keep it together for the kids, but some days, it was all I could do not to crawl back into bed and stay there. The worst was when Ava sat me down one night, her face pale and serious. "Mom," she said, twisting her hands together. "Do we have to go stay with Dad sometimes?" My heart broke right there at the kitchen table. "No, sweetie. Not if you don't want to." She exhaled, relief flooding her face. "Good," she said. "Because I hate him." I opened my mouth to tell her not to say that he was still her father, but the words caught in my throat. Because honestly, I hated him too. I picked up a second job at a local bookstore, working evenings and weekends. It wasn't glamorous, but it helped keep the lights on. I got used to the quiet. Used to eating alone. Used to the way the house felt too big and too small at the same time. Sometimes I caught myself wondering what Brian and Cassandra were doing. Was he happy? Did she make him feel young and invincible the way he said I didn't anymore? Other times, I didn't care. One Saturday afternoon, I ran into him at the grocery store. Of all places. I was standing in the frozen foods aisle, staring blankly at a bag of peas when I heard his voice. "Laura." I turned slowly, my stomach sinking. There he was, looking thinner, older, holding a basket with a sad little frozen pizza inside. "Hey," he said, like we were old friends bumping into each other at a high school reunion. I just raised an eyebrow. He shifted awkwardly. "Have you been?" "Fine." He nodded like he didn't believe me. "You look good." I said nothing. A long, uncomfortable silence stretched between us. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Cassandra and I broke up." I blinked. Shocking. She wasn't who I thought she was. I couldn't help it. I barked out a laugh. "You think?" He flushed. "I messed up, Laura." big time. I tossed the bag of peas into my cart. Yeah, you did. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I miss you. I miss the kids. I miss us. I stared at him, really stared. This man, who threw away 2 decades of marriage for a shiny distraction, standing there in a grocery store, asking for what? Forgiveness? A second chance? Too bad, I said, turning on my heel. I didn't look back. The funny thing about pain is how it gets quieter over time. It doesn't leave. It just hums in the background like an old refrigerator. You get used to it. After the grocery store encounter, Brian started texting me. At first it was harmless. Hope you're doing okay. Thinking about you. Miss the kids. Then it got heavier. Can we meet for coffee? I was such an idiot. Please, Laura. Just talk to me. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because a part of me, the weak, desperate part, wanted to text back. Wanted to hear him apologize, beg, explain. But the bigger part of me, the part that had cleaned up his mess, comforted the kids, cried in the shower so no one would hear, knew better. One rainy Thursday, after my bookstore shift, I found him waiting by my car. I froze, keys clutched tight in my hand. He looked wrecked. His hoodie was soaked through, hair plastered to his forehead. Laura, please, he said, voice cracking. Just 5 minutes. I hesitated, glancing around the empty lot. It was late. Dark. 5 minutes wouldn't kill me. I unlocked the car and sat inside. He slid into the passenger seat, dripping all over the upholstery. We sat there, the rain hammering the roof, the air between us thick with things we didn't say. I lost my job, he said finally, staring at his hands. I didn't feel sorry for him. Cassandra dumped me, he added, like that would earn him points. Still silent. I miss my family, Laura. I miss you. I miss Sunday mornings and burnt pancakes and fighting over what movie to watch. I swallowed hard. You should have thought about that before you bought her a damn car, I said quietly. He flinched. I was stupid. I thought I needed something else. Something new. And now that you're broke and alone, you remember what mattered? I snapped. He reached for my hand. I jerked it away. I'm not your backup plan, Brian. He sagged against the seat, defeated. I put the car in drive. Go home, Brian. Wherever that is now. He didn't fight me. Just got out, standing in the rain like a sad, broken man I barely recognized. I drove away without looking back. At home, I found Ava in the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge. She glanced at me, then did a double take. Mom? Are you okay? I realized I was shaking. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Just tired. She frowned but didn't press. Lucas thundered down the stairs, skidding into the kitchen. He had a soccer ball under one arm and a smear of dirt on his cheek. Mom, can you come to my game Saturday? Dad said he might come too. I froze. Of course Brian would worm his way back in through Lucas. Ava caught my eye, her mouth tightening. I'll be there, I said. No matter what. Lucas beamed and ran off. Ava leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You're not gonna let him come back, are you? I smiled sadly. No, baby. I'm not. Good, she muttered, grabbing a soda. He doesn't deserve us. Saturday dawned gray and windy. Perfect soccer weather. I sat on the bleachers, coffee in hand, wrapped in my old parka. Lucas played midfield, running his little heart out. Brian showed up 20 minutes late. He sat 2 rows below me, throwing awkward little glances over his shoulder. I ignored him. After the game, Lucas ran over, muddy and breathless. Did you see my goal, Mom? I sure did. You were amazing, I said, hugging him tight. Brian shuffled up behind him. Good job, buddy, he said, ruffling Lucas's hair. Lucas smiled, but his eyes darted nervously between us. Can we all go get ice cream? He asked, wide-eyed. I hesitated. Ava appeared, slipping her arm through mine. I'm good, she said pointedly. I'll go with Mom. Lucas looked crushed. Brian gave me a pleading look. I sighed. Rain check, bud. Homework first. Lucas groaned, but didn't argue. As we walked away, Brian called out. Laura. I turned, patience hanging by a thread. You look good, he said, a little too loud, a little too desperate. Ava snorted. I squeezed her hand and kept walking. Life kept moving. I found a better job, office manager at a small marketing firm. The pay wasn't great, but the people were kind, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up with a pit in my stomach. Ava got her driver's license. Lucas made the honor roll. We were okay. Not perfect. Not whole. But okay. Brian kept trying. Flowers left on the porch. Texts on my birthday. Voicemails when he knew I wouldn't answer. I stayed strong. Mostly. One night, months later, I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the houses. Marcy pulled up, 2 fast food bags in hand. Brought reinforcements, she said, waving the bags. We sat on the porch steps, eating greasy fries and watching the stars come out. So, you ever think about dating again? She asked between bites. I laughed, spraying crumbs. Jesus, Marcy. Let a girl heal. She grinned. Just saying. You're too good to waste on memories of that idiot. I chewed slowly, thinking. I hadn't thought about dating. Not really. How do you trust someone again after the person you trusted most stomped on your heart? But maybe, someday. Fall crept into Milwaukee fast. Cold mornings, early sunsets. The kind of chill that made you pull your sweater tighter around you. I was finally feeling like myself again. Not the frantic, desperate woman who stumbled through divorce papers and court dates, but me. Strong. Solid. That's about when Brian tried one last time. It was a Saturday afternoon. Lucas had a science fair project due, so the kitchen table was a disaster of baking soda volcanoes and crumpled poster board. Ava sat on the couch, pretending to study for her midterms. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a towel, half expecting it to be Marcy dropping off coffee like she sometimes did. It wasn't. Brian stood there, holding a grocery bag, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot. Hey, he said. I brought lasagna. I blinked. You're kidding. It's your favorite. I stared at him, incredulous. You think a frozen lasagna is gonna fix everything? He winced. No. I thought we could have dinner. Like old times. Talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Ava appeared behind me, instantly reading the situation. Oh my God, she muttered under her breath. He's serious. Brian noticed her and brightened. Hey, sweetie. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Lucas peeked around the corner. Dad? Brian smiled. Hey, buddy. Lucas's face lit up. He still loved his dad. It hurt to see it. Brian caught my hesitation and pushed the grocery bag toward me. Come on, Laura. Let's just eat. Talk. No pressure. I could feel Ava's gaze boring into the side of my head. I took a deep breath. Fine, I said. But don't get comfortable. Dinner was awkward. Brian tried too hard. Joked too loud. Told old stories like nothing had changed. Lucas laughed. Ava glared. When we finished eating, Brian leaned back, hands on his stomach. This feels right, doesn't it? He said, looking around like he was already moving back in. I stood up, stacking plates. He followed me into the kitchen. I've been thinking, he said, lowering his voice. Maybe we could. I don't know. Start fresh. Take things slow. I dropped the plates into the sink a little harder than necessary. And what about Cassandra? I said sweetly. She coming too? He flushed. That's over. I made a mistake. I turned to face him, leaning against the counter. You didn't make a mistake, Brian. You made a choice. Over and over again. You chose her. You chose to lie. You chose to throw us away. His face crumpled. I miss you, Laura. I miss the family. I smiled thinly. You miss the idea of us. Not me. He stepped closer. Too close. We can fix this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Brian, you're not listening. There's nothing to fix. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your warm place to land after you've burned every bridge. He blinked, confused. I leaned in slightly, dropping my voice so only he could hear. You didn't just lose me. You lost the kids. You lost everything. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. But hey, I said brightly, at least you've got that Mercedes. Oh, wait. Ava, who had been pretending to study in the living room, snorted so loud she almost fell off the couch. Brian's face turned red. I didn't stop there. Oh, and you'll be getting a little surprise soon, I added, wiping my hands on a towel. He frowned. What surprise? I smiled sweetly. Remember that business expense account you used to wine and dine Cassandra? Turns out you misused firm funds. Little birdie from your old job confirmed it. Corporate fraud's a BCH, isn't it? His mouth dropped open. You reported me? I shrugged. Just pointed them in the right direction. You did the rest. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Good luck explaining that at your next job interview, I added, patting his arm. He stumbled back a step. You're vindictive. I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. No, Brian. I'm done. There's a difference. He stood there, completely deflated, while I calmly walked him to the door. Lucas hugged him goodbye, still too young to understand everything. Ava didn't even look up from her phone. I opened the door. Brian hesitated on the threshold, the cold night air whipping around us. "Goodbye, Brian," I said firmly. He left. This time, I didn't watch him go. Later, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, the night quiet and still around me. Marcy texted, "Heard the news. Proud of you, badass." I smiled, setting the phone down. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. Free. I didn't need revenge that hurt. The sweetest revenge was living well. Thriving. Being the woman Brian would regret losing every single day for the rest of his life. And God, did it feel good.